Hello and welcome to this live webcast from AccountingWEB Studios here in Bristol. I'm Tom Herbert, editor of the site. Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you also to Wolters Kluwer for supporting this session. Over the next 50 minutes to an hour, we're going to be talking cloud. So over the last 5 years, we've seen a boom in the number of accounting firms using cloud tools. Data from our Accounting Excellence Awards shows that 70% of UK firms now use cloud tools in some way, shape or form. But this also presents challenges. If every accounting firm is using the same set of cloud tools, how do they differentiate themselves? How do they stand out from the cloud crowd? I don't have the answers, but fortunately I have a panel of experts that does, and although we're talking cloud, they all have a sunny disposition. I'm delighted to be joined, first of all, by Charlotte Houghton, partner at Ellicott. Hi, Charlotte. Could you tell us a little bit about your firm and clients, please?
Hi, thanks, Tom. Yes, well, at Ellicott's, we're very forward-thinking in what we're doing, and we've always tried to stay ahead of technology. For example, we've been paperless for many years now, and really embracing cloud technology was the natural next step. We have a real wide range of clients in the SME space across a variety of industries, predominantly agriculture as well. So they all have very different pain points, so we need to be offering them tailored solutions to meet their needs, really.
Fantastic. Thank you, Charlotte. Great to have you here. Got Stacey Morrison, who's manager of Old Mill Accountants. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, Tom. Old Mill, we've been looking at cloud technology over the last 4 or 5 years and how that can help us both internally with our processes and also with clients and helping them to run their businesses. We've also got a large, wide-ranging client mix in the rural space and also professionals. And so, as with Charlotte, we need to identify what their needs are and be able to offer solutions to be able to help them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stacey. And I'm also delighted to be joined by Software Royalty, Wolters Kluwer's Managing Director, UK and Ireland, Claire Carter. Hi, Claire.
Hi. So Wolters Kluwer have been around, believe it or not, for over 180 years. It's quite a legacy that they've got. They've been through many transformations, and we're hitting probably the most important transformation our industry's seen in a few hundred years. So I'm proud to be working and leading a very skillful team in the UK and working on behalf of Wolters Kluwer.
Yeah, and your CCH One-Click product was recently shortlisted in our Software Excellence Awards for Innovation of the Year. Could you just tell us, give us a quick blast on that?
Yeah, thank you. So we've been working on CCH One-Click for a number of years now. We've been looking at the pain points of our customers, most importantly, then looking at the compliance changes within the industry, particularly around making tax digital, digitalisation and GDPR. And we've come up with a solution which I would call a workspace rather than a platform. It's a workspace which encompasses everything in one place. I think that's really, really important. It embraces the ecosystem and most importantly, supports the move from compliance to advisory.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Claire. Looking forward to hear what you have to say. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. We got to the slides. So all these sessions will be available on demand, so if you're having any technical problems viewing the content, you will be able to view it on demand, i.e. Like a YouTube video, be able to stop and start it. If you have any questions about any technical issues, please email hello@accountingexcellence.co.uk. The link to the on-demand session and the slides will be emailed to you after the session. Speaking of questions, if you would like to ask any questions to our expert panellists, please use the chat window to the side or below this video, depending on the browser you're using. We'll answer as many questions as we can. If we miss any, our apologies, but we will answer everything as part of a post-event wrap-up or as part of the podcast that will be coming out on accountingweb.co.uk. Let's look at the agenda now. We're going to spend a little bit of time looking at factors behind the shift to cloud. We're going to be looking at what's out there in the cloud world. We're going to be looking at how accounting firms are gearing up for change, and then we're going to be spending a little bit of time on the next generation, so things like bots, machine learning, AI, and beyond. And as I said, we'll be getting to your questions after that. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. Factors behind this shift to cloud. This is a forward-facing webcast, so I don't want to spend too much time looking behind us, but I think it's quite important to understand why we've got to where we are. Stacey, do you think it's the shift to cloud is more down to the Making Tax Digital effect, the sort of stick, if you like, or are clients attracted by the efficiency gains, the carrot, if you like?
So I think it depends on the type of client and what their business is sometimes. We found that back when we first started looking at cloud, we had a number of clients that we approached to kind of start the journey with us, and there was a number of clients that were very keen on doing that. However, we have got a large, wide-ranging client base, and so inevitably we have got those clients that maybe require the MTD stick. But what we are trying to do with that is to really explain to them that whilst there is a need to do it, there are also benefits to the business as well. So we're trying to get them to see the positives of the stick anyway.
Yeah, positive stick.
Yeah,
Indeed.
positive stick.
Yeah, Charlotte, how have you found it?
I think, as Stacey said, a lot of it is based on the clients, and some are very forward-facing themselves and really want to embrace new technology as it comes. But also, especially from our point of view, it's about the changing relationships that I think accountants will have with their clients going forward, and really a shift from compliance work to advisory work, and having real-time information that the cloud technology enables really enables that shift. To be able to advise in a real-time way, having that information. So I think that's really important.
There's a fair amount of disagreement among the accounting community about this shift to advisory. Is it something that you are seeing on a sort of practical day-to-day level?
It's something that we're very passionate about, for sure, and I think it's that, because inevitably with technology changing, where things will become more automated, we need to shift the way that we're working. But having that real-time information really allows that change, and I think for us, that's a real drive for us going forward to how we can facilitate that relationship with the information, and tools like OneClick will really help facilitate that without having everything on that workspace. So.
No, indeed. Claire, what are Wolters Kluwer's customers, your accountants, what are they saying about the shift to cloud?
Yeah, it's interesting you make the comment around, this reluctance to move to advisory services, but we've carried out many surveys both within the UK and globally. So this is not just something that's affecting the UK, it's affecting the industry from a global perspective. And we've seen a shift within the next 10 years of revenues generating from compliance will be between 0 and 3%. So if you want to survive, you really do have to start focusing on a different stream to generate your revenue. And we're seeing that will be advisory services, and we see a growth potential there of between 20 and 30%. And then when you get into the next section of wealth management, it becomes even greater, 50%. So digitalisation, automation, enables us to focus on a different thing, which is a bit more forward-thinking than reflective, which is what our industry has always tended to be. And then, what's really important for our customers is revenue. And we are also seeing that 62% of the early adopters see an increase in their revenue, which is a really, really important factor.
We got to the slide at the end.
So again, a survey that we conducted back in 2017. So the facts are there. But I particularly like, the stories. I remember when I joined Wolters Kluwer 3 years ago, and we run user groups, and I asked the question the first time I was there, and I said, how many of you are using a cloud-based technology? And the audience was quite large, and it must have been like 6 people that said, we're using cloud technology. Now, 3 years later, I always ask the same question, and it must have been like 6 people that weren't. So that shift within a 3-year period has been absolutely significant. And I do think that there are going to be people that are apprehensive about the change from compliance to advisory, but that is where the industry is heading.
Okay, Fascinating. So, yeah, thank you both. We'll move on to the next section now. Obviously, the adoption of cloud tools has been driven to a huge extent by these MTD-friendly apps. But, I mean, it's such a huge ecosystem out there. There's a variety of platforms or workspaces, sorry, Claire, that are out there. I mean, what's out there and how can they help firms differentiate themselves from the competition if every firm's using similar tools? What kind of apps will help them stand out? Charlotte?
As you say, there is a huge number of apps available in the ecosystem, and it would be impossible for every firm to know absolutely every app because they're coming out all the time. But I think the key really is having the understanding of your client's business to understand what their needs are, what their pain points are, and then you'll be able to look at what tailored solutions are available for those clients. So it really is making sure things are bespoke to a client's need and they're not generic across the board. And I think that there are things that are available, there are organisations that are available to help practices look for the right apps for their clients and that can support that journey. But I mean, obviously that there are lots of apps that help the OCR type apps, the bank feeds and things that generally help clients across the board, but looking at specific areas, if they've got project and cost accounting, there are apps that really help along with that revenue recognition. So it really depends on the needs of the client, but it's that deep understanding that I think people need of their clients to be able to really select the right solutions for them to deliver added value and help them save time so they can focus really on running their business, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, Stacey, obviously at Old Mill you've been part of the cloud journey for a while. What are you using to sort of differentiate your firm?
So as I say, we've been looking at cloud software for kind of a little over 4 years, and what we've seen in that time is the entry software, the OCR technology, and things like bank feeds with open banking coming in this year has developed massively over that time, and I think, as Claire said, those firms that are now using cloud software has increased as well. So the entry software is probably very widely used now, and it's just making sure that if the technology is there, you're using it and understanding how to get the best out of it. The thing that we're now looking at is, and as Charlotte has mentioned, is really getting to grips with understanding what our clients need and want in terms of advisory services. So I think traditionally we've all said that we've offered management accounts and reporting, but actually advisory is and can be much more than that. Advisory is everything that isn't compliance effectively, so not your accounts preparation, not your corporation tax, everything outside of that.
Do you think there's a misunderstanding about that sort of prevails among the profession?
I think advisory services are far more wide-ranging than we've probably given credit to before. In terms of what we're looking at helping clients with their systems and processes. So clients now are coming to us maybe asking for help with their stock systems, and we're maybe able to advise on pointing them in the right direction for a cloud stock management system. And so I think that going forwards, I like to use the word and term technologist. We're going to have some of our advisory services will be about how businesses use technology for themselves and how to help run their businesses efficiently and get the most from their business in the future. So yeah, I'd like to think that some of our advisory services are in the technology space as well as the finance space that we're used to.
I mean, both yourself and Charlotte have mentioned getting to know what your clients actually want. Just from a practical perspective, can you just talk us through something you're doing that will actually pull that information out?
Yeah, so we're actually embarking on a bit of a market research project, going out and asking clients more about what their pain points are, what business worries keep them up at night, things like that, because actually once we start them talking about those problems, we actually do get to an end result of what may be a problem that we can resolve and help give them data on. I don't know, something like maybe they're not making enough profits. Well, actually, is that down to lower productivity? How do we increase revenue per employee? It's that type of stuff that generally from traditional management account and advisory services we might not have previously been offering. So we're really focusing on what the pain points for the business are, understanding them, and then adapting ways of answering and help resolving those problems.
Yeah, sort of taking that next step, as it were.
Yeah.
Great. Claire, can you just talk us briefly through what Wolters Kluwer offers and how this can help accountants stand out?
Yeah, so we're here fundamentally to make our customers look good and make them look good in front of their clients. That's ultimately our gain. And I think, you know, we're all talking about understanding our pain points, yeah. For us, it's understanding the pain points of our customers, but also understanding the pain points of their clients to bring together the collaboration. And I think we're all united in our views in terms of we want to add more value-added services to the clients. And that's going to be a more proactive alert mechanism, automating things, using AI, using bots from a service perspective, and providing more proactive advice. And that could be in a remit of information. And also data is going to be absolutely critical. The integration of the aggregation of the data will help firms not only give them advice about their SMEs, but also more about benchmarking against their verticals. Yeah, so if it's farmers, you know, what's going on within that vertical and how does that SME stand out with the other SMEs within the practice of old mills, for example. So it becomes a lot more proactive, and I always feel that that's what we're trying to do. Be more proactive and seeing things coming rather than reactive and looking back on last month's performance of the traditional accounts.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I remember sort of 4 or 5 years ago there being this these whispers of vertical benchmarking, and it's great to see that becoming a reality now almost, that will help people in a really sort of practical way. So, no, that's great. Charlotte, are you able to just talk through just a couple of the apps that are having the biggest impact on your clients?
Absolutely. As we mentioned, so the core sort of data entry apps that make the day-to-day bookkeeping obviously have a huge impact. But looking at actually helping them run their businesses, there are apps around project and cost accounting that can really help deliver solutions to our clients, like Workflow Max. We're seeing things like that. Also, expenses apps are very useful for practical, especially where people have got salespeople on the road for tracking mileage and things like that. That's really, really useful. I think from our point of view, from the accountant space, it's looking at things like Futurely to be able to have that real overview dashboard with forecasting and KPIs. I think from our point of view, it's those sorts of things that are really powerful to help really join that advisory piece with the real-time information as opposed to looking backwards. So that's a real focus for us at the moment as well. But again, it all really depends. There's so much out there what the client is doing, and it's about that knowledge and understanding to be able to select the right applications for those clients. But to be honest, there's so much out there around stock management you've mentioned as well. There is a lot available for people, and it's just having that understanding of the business to make the right recommendations really.
Yeah, Stacey, same question.
So I think a lot of our clients, one of their worries is cash management, debt chasing. So you know, if they've actually got funds available to them, they can maybe invest them or buy new kit or whatever it might be. So we're finding the debt collection kind of like chaser is going to be one that's kind of exciting to our client base.
Yeah, I think there's a real issue around late payments in this country, and anything that can be done to sort of speed things up in that area is really important.
Yeah.
So new technologies are great, I think it's fair to say, but they are nothing without the processes. So here I think we've got on screen at the moment the sort of Wolters Kluwer ecosystem. Claire, are you happy to just talk us a little bit through this diagram that's sort of appeared? Like,
It's very colourful, isn't it?
It's marvellous, yeah. Sort of various things orbiting around the Wolters Kluwer planet.
Yeah, so this is about the ecosystem. So we have traditional compliance products and solutions that have always been our backbone and will continue to be. They're not going anywhere. But it's about talking about what we've talked about now, linking clients and customers together and thinking about how the industry is changing. We're seeing not just a trend in compliance, so making tax digital and GDPR, which puts a constraint on us anyway, but we're seeing a trend outside of our industry that will impact us. So like the open banking project that's been going underway at the same time as making tax digital for the banking system, you know, opening APIs up from banks connects to bookkeeping solutions, that connects to outputs and advisory services that we've just been talking about. So it goes outside of our ecosystem. It's linking the end-to-end client experience up and providing those alerts and advisory services to give them good advice, to make them look good, as I keep saying. So when you think of something practical about that, you can think of bookkeeping solutions, and you know, you've got some accountants that go for one bookkeeping solution with their clients, and you've got some accountants that still use, you know, 10, 15, I know some that have got 50 different versions of bookkeeping solutions. Wow. Now, that's one thing to learn all of those systems. It's another to manage them. It's another because of the cost implication. And then there's another from a training implication. That's a huge, huge pain point. So one of the things that we look to do in Wolters Kluwer is to integrate as much as we possibly can. So the Open Integration Programme that we launched, back in 2016, was designed to link the data from the bookkeeping solutions into the accounts production, and also it's pushing back out the other way now. Yeah. So that's one specific example of where you identify pain points, but also the changes within the industry, not just within tax and accounting, but outside of the industry, and understand what their clients want in terms of added value. And that's what we're all about. So the ecosystem is designed to support our practical, traditional products, but also designed to support the new leap into advisory services.
Fantastic, thank you, Claire. Great, so let's move on to the next section, gearing up for change. Remember, if you have any questions for the panellists, we will be answering at the end, but do get them in nice and early so we can see them. The chat box that's either to the side or below this video. So the next section is around preparing for new technology. So they're undoubtedly revolutionising the accountancy space, but they're nothing without the processes behind them. So how can accountants integrate new tools into their firms or workflows that perhaps might have sort of a bit of legacy infrastructure behind, or you know, less progressive partners, you know, I think one of the biggest challenges that we found from AccountingWEB members is just because there is the sheer scale of the ecosystem. Sometimes it's finding the time to research and test all the different options. Stacey, first of all, I'm going to come to you. In terms of sort of staff buy-in, how do you approach it at Old Mill?
So yeah, I think managing change, one of the key points there is making sure that your staff do understand and actually do buy into what is happening. And within the industry, and certainly within Old Mill, that is varied. Undoubtedly, you get different personalities, different characteristic of people working for you. We find that communication is a key tool there, just to understand why we're looking at things. You know, is that an internal efficiency?
Are these sort of meetings or emails? Or
we have quarterly presentations internally, so we tend to get a lot of our staff in a room together and vocalise, kind of, rather than an email. Sure. But there's, you know, we use Yammer internally, just little messages out there, just to kind of keep everybody up to date with what's happening. I think what we also have within Old Mill is we have, over the past few years, pulled together a team of dedicated people within a best practice team, so that we can not have to juggle kind of two job roles, the client facing, going out and managing portfolios, with the looking at other improvements to our processes and systems internally. So we've actually now got a dedicated team who looks at the products that are out there, who looks at their suitability, kind of shortlist some that are worth then investigating further. So really it's a case of getting the right people doing the right research at the right time, and not having to juggle too many job roles.
Yeah, it must be quite an interesting role for them, going out and kicking the tyres on a whole bunch of new products.
Absolutely, it's really exciting. That's certainly where my job role has kind of come from.
Yeah, fascinating. Charlotte, how about yourself and Ellicotts?
So I think the team buy-in is absolutely crucial for any project to succeed, especially where you've got quite a large team in the office. And I think that the first thing that's really important is to get buy-in from all the partners, because obviously sometimes change is top down, and we're very fortunate that everyone at Ellicotts is very future focused and happy to embrace the technology. So I think that's really key in the first instance. And then I think in a similar way to what Stacey's described at Old Mill, we have product champions on each product, but we also have a super user group for key products such as Zero, and in that super user group there are super users allocated within each of our specialist teams, so they're able to really be the key point person within the teams to answer any queries. And that super user group meets up for lunch, for a long lunch every month, to talk about ideas, share experiences across the firm, and really be able to develop the offering and knowledge across the firm, and that's working really, really well at the moment. But it's really getting the information out there. People are sometimes change resistant, and where you've got people that have been in practice for 30, 40 years, it's a big ask to change. But I think as long as you communicate and explain the changes and why they're happening, and the benefits really of the change, because to be honest, the technology makes life a lot easier. So it's really explaining the benefits and being supportive throughout the change. I think that really, really helps.
Yeah, good stuff. So, Claire, I mean, in terms of how Wolters Kluwer are sort of preparing their customers for change, I guess we've got a sort of good use case, as it were, with CCH One-Click sort of coming out. I mean, how are you preparing your customers, your accountants to embrace this new product?
So it's all about change. They say to change a culture, when you get to 25% of your community, the culture naturally starts to change. It's not that big when you think about it, 25%. So it's all about mindset. Like we've heard today, the partners, the business is embracing the change and the opportunity that we have in the industry. I don't need to tell my customers how to be experts in terms of knowledge. So when we talk about super users and change ambassadors within the accountants, that's definitely one. Definitely having critical, talented people that are really ambassadors for change is really, really important, almost like really strong role models for embracing that technology and everything that comes with it. The other, though, is knowledge and expertise, and harnessing that is critical, but that almost then comes into another shift that's going on, and 50% of our workforce within the industry will be millennials in the next 3 years. That's quite a significant change as well. And they learn differently. They want to watch a YouTube, they want gamification in their products and services, something that's going to motivate them to learn and educate themselves. So that's another important factor. And then for me, the biggest challenge that we have, and opportunity, is when we are recruiting people into our industry now, that the skills and behaviours are slightly different from the traditionals. So you're looking for skills around communication and engagement, and that's another big shift within our industry. So, again, that's about Wolters Kluwer listening to our pain points of our customers and finding solutions for them that integrates all of those three key elements into a workspace that they can access and help them through that journey.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on the recruitment point, because that was a really good one.
Yeah.
There's technology technology is one thing, but the skills behind it, I guess. I mean, both your firms, and I'll start with you, Charlotte. How many sort of people from a sort of non-accounting background are you looking to recruit into sort of technology roles, or is it a case of sort of building up accountants with sort of decent tech skills?
And I've heard this phrase a lot, it's tech-loving accountants, and I think that's really important. So I think obviously you need the expertise in the accountancy arena, but I think you've got to be open to embrace the new technology and be passionate about looking for new solutions and coming up with new ideas, and I think it's having that open mindset, and also as Claire mentioned, it's the skill set in terms of communications and being client facing, because the days of squirreling away in the back office doing data entry are going to be long gone. So we really are looking at the right people that you would want to sit in front of a client and be able to talk confidently about the issues that they're facing. And I think that is a very different skill set than maybe you were looking for 20 years ago. And I think that's definitely been, when we've been looking at recruitment, it's the person and the fit and that idea for embracing technology, which I think a lot of young people have anyway, but it's that personality and communication skill set.
There was quite an interesting chat on our podcast, No Accounting for Taste. We had I think Gary Turner from Xero come in talking about millennials and how they were not only comfortable with technology, but because they spend particularly sort of teenagers now spend so long sort of videoing themselves, they are very comfortable sort of on video, on these new technologies and being able to present naturally in front of so things that I would have been utterly terrified to do when I was at school. How about yourself, Stacey, at Old Mill?
I think in terms of recruitment, we're much more keen now to think about the personality and the characteristics of the candidate, because we are looking for the open-minded people, those that are adaptable, those that are easily open to change management and things like that. So it probably maybe, I don't know if this is probably a little bit too broad a statement to make, but we're probably more interested in the actual person than we are about their skills, because certainly younger people, they know the technology. In fact, they probably know more about technology than we do potentially. They are constantly on FaceTime, on Instagram, on whatever other apps that they're using. So it really is, they can probably pick it up quicker as well. So, in terms of actually them learning something new, they are happy to learn something from a YouTube video. So it's not so much about training them, it's about how open to being trained they are.
Interesting. Okay, sort of flipping that mindset. I guess, the next point I want to come to is around, now practices are familiar with what cloud tools do. How do they go about defining a direction for the firm? I guess it comes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the carrot or the stick for a certain extent, but how do you go about defining a technology direction for a firm and then making sure the message gets out to sort of staff and clients? So, whether you are just using cloud to streamline your processes and drive efficiencies, or whether you are looking to build a more sort of an advisory platform, as it were. Charlotte, how do you go about doing that?
I think at the very beginning, it was a real drive for efficiency. So I think we're always being challenged in the industry to be more cost effective with what we're doing. A lot of people offshoring and things like that has put pressure on the costs of certainly of compliance work. So there is a real drive to gain efficiencies from utilising technology available, and I think was very key in the beginning, and also understanding that legislation's changing, Making Tax Digital is going to be coming in very soon, and everyone needs to be ready to be able to meet those requirements. So I think that's now almost a given. That's that's the way it has to be. So I think the drive really is now accepting the big change that's happening in our industry and being ready to change our roles from the sort of traditional accountants as it was always having a conversation, let's look at the year-end accounts and talk about things that were happening a year ago. Actually, we need to be talking about things that are happening now and things that are happening next week and next year. So it's shifting the conversation. So I think now it's the shift to advisory, and that should be the sort of the new focus, and how we change the way that we work and operate to have that constant future-facing discussions with our clients and utilising the information that's available from the cloud technology. So I think, yes, in the beginning, efficiency and being ready for MTD, but now very much our role in the marketplace.
Yeah, so there's a sort of a foundations of efficiency and then sort of build up. Claire, I'm going to swing to you. In terms of the marketplace, obviously Wolters Kluwer work with some pretty big firms. What are you seeing among them, and what could smaller practices learn from that?
Yeah, so going back to that point, I think it's a really interesting point. In any organisation, before you can invest, you need to drive either efficiency or growth. So to that really important point, the first stage is driving efficiency, the automation of our compliance services. And I probably need to caveat this. We're not looking to lose the deep understanding and knowledge of that compliance industry. We need it very much, even more so, really. We're just trying to create capacity and opportunity for other services to complement the compliance work. So we are seeing efficiencies and then moving into advisory services. We're seeing a lot of acquisitions at the moment within the industry. We're seeing in the smaller sector traditional accountants, perhaps their children moving up to be partners, not quite excited about the direction that their mother or father are taking the firm in, and deciding to break away and do something very differently. So again, we're seeing lots of startups, but more around a new generation of accountants that want to do things very differently to their parents. So we're seeing that trend as well happening. And I think when you look at technology, for me, the two elements of artificial intelligence and bots are really designed for two different things. Bots is about adding value for services, asking for something through voice recognition, finding the data very easily, whether it's a question, whether it's data, whether it's a query. And artificial intelligence for us is about looking at algorithms to predict patterns that enables us to create alerts or forward-thinking information for the tax advisor. So I think there's lots of different things happening at the moment, from startups to acquisitions, but also embracing the technology to drive the efficiencies to then move to advisory services.
Thank you, Claire. Really interesting. You've very nicely done my job very nicely there, sort of segued into the final section where we are going to be talking about the next generation of technologies coming through. It's already here, as you can see on the slides. There's a man high-fiving a robot there. But we're going to be looking a little bit at AI and bots. But we hear a lot about blockchain, AI. I mean, how much of this is speculation, and how much is this tech likely to have a real impact on the future of the profession? Are robots, that we're high-fiving now, going to be coming for our jobs in the future? Stacey?
I think that's probably a number of years off. Although I'd like to high-five a robot, I think it'll be a number of years before I'm doing that. But I would say for AI, it's already here. It's already happening. It's just developing and getting better and better. So I know there's a number of softwares there that, as Claire has said, it's all about the ability to code and teach a computer to learn about what it's looking at, raise alerts and things like that. So artificial intelligence is already happening. And it can only get better and better and develop what it can do. I think bots, there's a space for them, but it's more about the automation and also helping with our client queries around the compliance service. So, can a chatbot go and say, a client logs on and says, what's my payment on account for July? And it should be able to go and fetch that from the system. It's those queries that we all get, which take just that little bit of time to go back and respond to the client. And if you add that up over your client base over a year, if a chatbot can do that, how much time can we save? So chatbots have got a place, I think, and I would like to think that that's just managing our compliance service and the way that we deal with those data queries that we get about clients that the system already knows. It can just respond on its own. There's also the other services that we have to carry out as accountants, the billing, for example, the automation of those. So we've got a bill bot within Old Mill. So that has recently been able to automate the billing of some of our payroll clients because we know what their fees are. It's replication and repetitive service. So we've got a bot that can actually generate those bills at the press of a button, and those can get generated.
How are you finding the accuracy of that compared to the sort of human-generated bills?
Well, far. It obviously eliminates human error. You know, the adding up wrong, the deciding what to bill the client. It's set. Billbot knows what to do. It's been told previously, and it won't waver from that. So it's for those services that we have to carry out, those tasks that we have to carry out that do not need flexibility. Bots are very good. I think so. That's where I think that can be useful, and I think blockchain is kind of off in the distant future. Whether that does develop enough for us to be able to use it within the industry to our advantage, then who knows?
Yeah, Charlotte, I mean, from your perspective, where can accountants find value in this emerging tech that we've been talking about?
I think the key is that accountants have to acknowledge that it's happening and it's developing all the time. And as Stacey said, it's already happening. We've already got machine learning that we are utilising when we're doing bookkeeping. You know, it's remembering where payments are coded to, and it's getting better and better. So I think it's already here, and it will be taking away more and more of the sort of routine tasks that we do have staff doing currently. So, and I think accuracy and things will just improve and get better and better as well. So I think it's just acknowledging that, and but I don't think it's going to replace us. I don't think there are going to be no accountants in 25 years. It's all going to be machines, because I think people want that human interaction. But what they want is for us to understand what all the technology is telling us and to make recommendations based on that. So I think it's just the change is coming, and it's a big change in our industry, and I think people need to be aware it's happening now. It's not, oh, I don't need to worry about that, I'll be retired before that comes in. I don't think that's the case. I think it's happening now, and I think it's shifting the way that we will work going forward, and it's gearing up for that change really, and utilising the great things that the technology can do, because it's amazing really. Yeah. If you think from where we were.
Yeah, I was at the AAT's conference fairly recently, and a chap called Sam Ellis was giving a presentation on augmented intelligence. So, you know, rather than the robots taking our jobs, just finding a way of human and robots working hand in hand, as it were, to actually, as I say, augment and hopefully improve. And I think what you were describing there is a sort of perfect example of that. Yeah. Claire, in terms of what Wolters Kluwer are looking at, what's now, what's next?
So we very much believe by the time we get to 2020, AI and bots will be automating a lot of the work that we've just been talking about. It's exciting, you know. We're going from traditional compliance advice to helping our 5.4 million SME customers grow their business through not just financial implications, but real advice that's going to help them nourish and become, you know, our next generation of, you know, Steve Jobs or whoever else. This is a really, really exciting opportunity for us. For Wolters Kluwer, we continue to listen to our customers' pain points. That's the most important thing. How we do that, whether it's through our user groups, whether it's through code game scenarios, or whether it's through just engaging our customers in early adoption. And Ellicott and Old Mill have been critical to providing feedback for CCH One-Click. We've got some exciting things up our sleeves in the next year. I think from a Wolters Kluwer perspective, We are now leading the way in complete workspaces, and we will continue to be the innovators. Listen to our customers, listen to understanding what's going on within the industry, outside of the industry, and also what those SMEs are looking for from their accountants. And I would suggest over the next 12 months, you will see tools and support to talk about exactly what we've done. A change in the industry that we probably haven't seen for 500 years that's going to really revolutionise what we're all about in tax and accounting.
Fantastic, thank you, Claire. Right, well, that wraps up that section, and we've had a flood of questions. Thank you all so much. There's still a little bit of time to get them in, but I thought that I would jump straight in at the deep end, as it were. We've had a question from Robert, who asks, do you think that the long-term role of accountants could disappear with other institutions taking up the roles, such as banks? Controversial. Bespoke business managers, IT companies using new software. The example is the sort of 3-second audit software that we've been hearing about. Stacey, I think you mentioned it earlier, so can I sling this one across to you?
I think I've got this quote from somewhere. I'm not sure quite where. It might well have been Waters Clear actually, which is actually the accountant is one of the most trusted business advisors, if not the most trusted business advisor for a business. So I wouldn't expect the role of the accountant to disappear. I just think it will change, and it is already changing. So the roles of banks are also changing. A lot of the high street banks we're finding online banking, so those that don't have a high street presence. So I think the banking industry is shifting more towards that way. So for them to kind of take over the role of an accountant, I'm not sure that is where that's going to go, because those kind of new emerging banks don't seem to be sitting in that space at the moment. The IT and technology side, that's probably where, as I say, that's what I call, my terminology is a technologist. I think though we still need an element of accounting knowledge, because, or at least business knowledge. I think in terms of banks, probably not. They have their place. I don't think it's as in the accounting space, an advisory space as such. And I think there's more IT savvy, technology friendly accountants, really. So I think we all that's what we are having to adapt to.
Great, yeah. As for those interested in the relationship between banks and accountants, there's actually a piece that's gone live today by Ben Smith around why banks are trying to be accountants' new best friends. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Check that out on AccountingWEB.co.uk. There's a question from Ella Bowman. Thank you, Ella. What do the panel do to show that your clients, show to your clients that you value their business and want them to come back? I feel sometimes our firm can be a bit OTT on the communication. Does that put people off? What's the perfect balance?
Well, that's an interesting one. I think communication's really key, but I think to show that we value our clients is to show that we actually listen to them and understand their business. So I think if you are very generic in what you're saying, I think that doesn't show that you're listening and understanding. So I think you show that you care by really understanding and coming up with tailored solutions. And also I think regular communication is really key, and offering to keep people up to date. So where there are big changes going on in the industry, we've had huge changes over the last few years. We've had all this technology along with new accounting standards, along with changes in the tax regime coming up, GDPR, I was about to say. So there's so much. So it's keeping clients up to date and showing that you care by making sure that they're aware of what's going on. So having seminars and just engaging, picking up the phone to make sure that they're happy. I think that sort of shows you care, and I don't think that would be over the top. I think that is probably that's where that human interaction is, where we're saying that the machine will never replace us, because people want to talk to people. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. And Claire, from a sort of customer care point of view, I mean, how do you show the Waters Clewer customers that you are, the sort of solution for them, that you care, as it were?
Thank you. Well, I think listening is probably the most important thing, to the point of, give your customers what they're looking for. It's all about building relationships and getting to a point of trust. And if you can build relationships and get to a point of trust, to that point then, the accountant is the most trusted advisor. And I will keep going back and saying my job is to make my accountants look good in front of their clients. So whatever I can do to make that happen, so to enable their clients to trust their accountants, to enable their clients to collaborate in a timely way that's individual to their needs and individual to their requirements, that manages relationships, then for me that's the most important thing. But I would say, it is all about listening. You start from that point, you can't go wrong.
Fantastic, great insight. Thank you, Claire. We've had a question from Ollie Evans, perhaps Ollie Evans of Evans and Partners, who was sat in this very room before, but if it is, hi Ollie. He says, I love the idea of tools like Chaser to automate business processes like debt collection. This needs underlying data kept up to date and real time so that you don't chase paid invoices.
Yes.
How will traditional accounting skills more used to quarter end or year end processing cope with this? Stacey?
I think the only solution there is that they have to realise that if a business is sending out debt collection chasers based on historic information, they're going to upset their customers, and ultimately, as a business, they may well fail as a absolutely catastrophic effect. So worst case scenario is those people that aren't keeping that information up to date and live and using the technology to its full capabilities, there's possibility that they aren't future-proof. So really, I think we have to, the technology is there to keep your record live and be on top of it, and absolutely as a fundamental rule, I think we have to use that going forward, because it might not be debt collection, it might be actually the bank you require, or a finance institution requires up-to-date information. If you need to spend a day or hours pulling that information together rather than just say, here you go, that's going to build up that better relationship with them initially, kind of put your business in a positive light right from the outset, and make them more willing maybe to give you that finance. So I think we have to actually shift our mindset to say the days of monthly and quarterly record keeping are in the past.
Great answer. Thank you, Stacey. I'm gonna keep going with these. Mark P asks, is standing out just a vanity project that partners/staff want to believe? Do clients really want a unique firm, or just one that they know is going to get stuff done? Charlotte.
That's a really good question as well. I think, to be honest, I think what people want is a trusted business advisor who, as we said, will listen to them and deliver the right solutions. And I think as long as you are advertising or making it clear in the marketplace that that's what you're offering, that's what's most important. And it can be a crowded marketplace, but I think genuinely firms who are embracing that level of technology and change, but also listening and driving those solutions. I don't think every firm is necessarily doing that. So I think if you are doing all of those things, by virtue of that fact, you will stand out. And I think it's by delivering absolutely excellent client service and amazing solutions to our clients that we stand out, as opposed to standing out for standing out's sake, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, the sort of byproduct of excellent customer services. Okay, great. Laura asks, thank you for the question, Laura. We're a very small firm and would definitely benefit from liaising with other system users when implementing new tech. Are there groups or networking events, either physical or online, we can attend? Do you guys utilise such things?
Yeah, so it depends on what kind of software and you're looking at. If I'm okay to say, we use Xero, so there are Xero user groups and various different blogs, and their community is really useful to engage with as well. There are Blue Hub, who Matt Flanagan is a chap who kind of facilitates a lot of sharing of information, getting together, just chatting through your experiences, learning from other people, because actually at the end of the day we are all in the same boat. And actually if somebody's made a mistake already and learnt from it, I would very much like to share that with somebody so that they don't go through the same mistake again. Yeah, there are so many different kind of forums and groups out there. It just depends on what you're interested in at the time. But certainly, whichever software is that you're wanting to kind of look at, the best people are the account managers and things at those to maybe put you into contact with others that are in those groups.
Just to add to that, we're also part of something called the UK 200 group. So it's an association of independent accountants and solicitors in the UK, and we work quite a lot together in sharing ideas, and that can be really, really useful. So I've had quite a few firms within the group reach out and make contact when they're looking at, for example, going paperless. Because as I mentioned before, we did that quite a few years ago. So if you're part of something like that, that is enormously useful in terms of sharing resources and ideas, and also, you know, giving you more of an impact in the sector if you have a collective voice. So we found that really, really useful as well.
Fantastic. Before I swing to you, Claire, apologies to our audience if the sirens seem to be cutting through the soundproofing of the studio. I realise the conversation is criminally good, but no reason to come and take us away. But Claire, Walters Kluwer have user groups that I think you've mentioned as well.
Yeah, we have regular user groups to bring everyone together, really, to talk about subject matters that they want to talk about, whether that's specialist subject matters like GDPR or making tax digital, and we bring people in from the relevant organisations, or whether it's about making the best use of the products or technology that we have. We also do a lot of work with listening to customers on as I mentioned, code games. So every couple of times a year, the technology team spend 2 days creating new solutions for pain points, and then we bring our customers in and help they judge which development they want to take forward in terms of developing it further into the solutions. And then we have something that we call Voice of the Customer, so that's always feedback about what things they want adding into our products and services or new things that they want developing. And then we do the usual things, taking them for dinner so that they can network together. So networking and communication and bringing like-minded people together is really important. Yeah. And you know what? People always say they're never going to talk to each other. They're going to be really, really sceptical about sharing strategies. But they're really, really not. They've got very clear strategies. They probably keep quite close to their chest. But the challenges and pain points that they have are relevant to everybody, and they're always very, very happy to talk about them.
Fantastic, thank you, Claire. I'm afraid that we've run out of time almost for today, so apologies if I didn't get round to your question. We will be covering, sort of mopping up any sort of loose questions afterwards in a podcast that will be on accountingweb.co.uk. But before we go, I'm going to ask each panellist for sort of one point to take away, as it were, for viewers from this session. Charlotte, can I start with you?
I think mine point to take away if you're about to make the change and introduce cloud in your practice would be to really make sure that you get the buy-in of the key stakeholders in your business and your team, so they really embrace the change as well. So communication and learning tools for them is really, really important to really help ease the transition into the new ways of working.
Fantastic, thank you. Stacey?
I think my kind of sum up is really have a clear idea of what you want to achieve from your cloud journey and plan it really well, because it's a very interesting but complicated and crowded marketplace out there in the cloud space, and so you can go into it and lose your way a little bit if you don't have a clear focus of what you want to try and achieve, whether that is gaining the efficiencies for your internal processes, or indeed going straight out because you've got that already and going into the advisory space. Your journey will be very different, so do plan that very well.
Thank you, Stacey. And final point from you, Claire.
Yes, I would say listen to your customers, embrace the technology, because technology changes every day, and surround yourself with like-minded, talented people.
Wonderful. Claire Carter from Wolters Kluwer, Stacey Morrison from Old Mill Accountants, and Charlotte Houghton from Ellicott's. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Thank you also for watching. Please give us your feedback via the chat box if you've enjoyed it. If you've not, I'm sorry. Add in what we could do better in the box. We'll send out an on-demand version of this. If you've registered, you'll be getting it in your inbox over the next couple of days, and you can use the links on the page to get to further information. Thank you very much to Wolters Kluwer for sponsoring this, and for more on accountancy in general, we're accountingweb.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.